It began with a mistake. A misread note, a vague answer, a slip of the tongue broadcast live on East German television. And just hours later, thousands of Berliners, armed with nothing but hope and hammers, brought down one of the most infamous symbols of oppression in modern history. This is the story of how one of the Cold War's most impenetrable barriers crumbled, not through war, not through treaties, but through confusion, courage, and the unstoppable force of people who had had enough. For 28 years, the Berlin Wall sliced a city and a world in two. In the dead of night on August 13, 1961, East German soldiers began unrolling barbed wire and setting up checkpoints, dividing families, lovers, and friends overnight. Concrete soon followed: guard towers, searchlights, machine guns. East Germany called it the anti-fascist protection rampart, but the people knew what it really was: a prison wall. Over 100 people would die trying to cross it. Some were shot, some drowned. Others fell from desperate heights, like 18-year-old Peter Fechter, who was left to bleed to death in the death strip while the world watched helplessly from the western side. The message from the regime was clear: no one leaves. But by the 1980s, the cracks were starting to show, not just in the wall, but in the Soviet Empire itself. Mikhail Gorbachev had introduced reforms like glasnost and perestroika in the USSR. In Poland, the Solidarity movement was gaining traction. Hungary was quietly dismantling its border fence with Austria. Inside East Germany, anger simmered beneath the surface. Every Monday, thousands gathered in Leipzig to chant, "Wir sind das Volk," "We are the people." They marched peacefully, demanding reforms, risking arrest, beatings, even death. The world was holding its breath. Would the regime crack down, or would something finally give? Then came November 9, 1989. At 6:53 p.m., East German official Günter Schabowski stood before a packed room of journalists. He was handed a piece of paper, one he hadn't read thoroughly. It outlined new travel regulations that would, for the first time in decades, allow East Germans to cross into West Berlin. A journalist asked, "When does this take effect?" Schabowski fumbled. Flipping through his notes, he mumbled, "As far as I know, immediately." Those words exploded across the airwaves. West German TV rebroadcasted it within minutes. East Berliners tuned in secretly, jaws dropping. Could it be real? By 8 p.m., crowds began forming at the Berlin Wall's checkpoints, demanding to be let through. The guards, armed and confused, frantically called their superiors. No one had answers. There were no orders, no protocols. Then, around 10:45 p.m., something unimaginable happened. Checkpoint Bornholmer Strasse opened its gates. The guards, outnumbered and overwhelmed, let people through. Not one bullet was fired. East Berliners poured into the West, laughing, crying, some stunned into silence. Strangers embraced, families reunited, champagne flowed in the streets. And then, people climbed the wall. From both sides, Berliners took sledgehammers and chisels to the concrete. Bit by bit, the wall that had divided them for a generation began to fall. Live broadcasts showed it all to a watching world. One West German commentator whispered, "This is not the day the wall came down. This is the day the people rose up." The fall of the Berlin Wall was more than just the collapse of a structure. It was the collapse of an ideology. Within a year, East and West Germany were reunified. Within 2 years, the Soviet Union dissolved. But the scars linger. Berlin today is a vibrant city. But if you walk its streets, you can still find cobblestone lines tracing the wall's former path, a quiet reminder of what once was. And for those who lived through it, the memory of that night in November still brings tears. Not just for the freedom they gained, but for the years lost behind concrete and barbed wire. In the end, the Berlin Wall didn't fall because of a war or a revolution. It fell because a lie could no longer hold back the truth. Because people with nothing but candles and courage faced down tanks. And because, in a moment of uncertainty, the iron fist of tyranny hesitated, and the people walked through. The wall fell, but the spirit of that night still stands. Subscribe for more stories that shaped the world. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Let's remember it together.